Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a recap of Netflix series You, season 1, episode 2, The Last Nice Guy in New York. I'm going to get a lot of videos today because I have time today. I've been busy all throughout the week because I was unfortunately one of the people affected by the furlough, and so I just went back to work on Monday. So of course you can imagine the backlog of work, and then I'm taking classes, so I wasn't able to do any recaps or reviews to upload to upload for this past week. So I'm trying to get through as many as I can today. But okay, let me hurry up before my battery dies. So it opens with Joe was kind of fantasizing about their meeting. She agreed to meet with him for coffee, and so of course that's all he can think about. And then he made reference to Candace. Now the first episode he did make reference to a woman he had dated before and how it didn't work out, and that's why he was basically, in his mind, he's doing research on Beck to make sure that she's a safe bet because he got burned in his last relationship. So that's his justification for basically stalking her. That's his justification, trying to find out everything he can about her. It's in an effort to protect himself. Okay, that's the mind fuck that he's doing right now. Okay, but he did make reference to Candace, so I'm assuming that's the same person, the woman he was talking about in the first episode. So it was a day, I guess they were supposed to meet for coffee, and he couldn't even help himself. The next thing you know, he's up, they're both up getting dressed, going, starting their day. She's, still at home getting dressed, and he's already got dressed, and he's standing outside her apartment. I'm like, God damn, but again, he crazy. So there you go. And so of course, you have the voiceover of him analyzing her and that whole nine, like she saw a hole in her shirt, and he's like, well, of course you're a broke college student, you can't afford new clothes, the whole thing. So he notices that she got a new phone, and he was saying that, I guess, when you get a new phone, you have to deactivate the old phone, but then he's like, but she uploaded everything on her phone to the cloud, so he still has her old phone, and he's still getting all her text and whatever's being posted. So he's still able to stay in touch with her, even though she got the new phone. So Joe was upset because she'd been trying to call Benji, and because of course his business partner knew he had gone to meet some guy and he never came back. So now they're worried, and so now he's upset because he's like, okay, wow, she's not even thinking about me and our coffee date, like she's still thinking about this guy who's a loser. Okay, so he's trying to figure out what he's going to do with Benji. So she goes him to work at school because she's a TA, and the professor's still on her about meeting him for drinks. So she agreed to meet with him. She agreed to meet with him because she feels like her job, her TA job, is on the line, and she needs that job in order to afford to stay in school and housing and the whole thing. So she feels he knows that he's backed her into a corner, and she doesn't have any choice but to meet with him. So Joe's back at the bookstore, and one of the guys that worked there said Paco was there. So Paco's upstairs, he's reading some book, and Joe goes up to talk to him, and he's talking about he was reading it because some girls in his school were talking about it, and he wanted to see what it was all about. And then Joe ends up giving him another book about Frankenstein, and he was explaining to him like the story, the monster. The monster wasn't really the actual monster. And he said, what does that mean? He was like, you read it and then you talk to me about it. So I'm squared away. And so of course he has to go downstairs because Benji is still locked in the damn basement, all fucked up. And so they start talking, and Joe feels like his one time, because initially Joe's still trying to figure out what he's going to do with Benji, because at this point he hasn't thought about killing him, and the only saving grace was because Benji doesn't know who Joe is, so he's like, he doesn't know who I am, he doesn't really know where he is because he came in through the back way, and he's now trying to figure out, okay, he didn't think far enough ahead, like what is he gonna do with this guy? And so they're talking, and Benji eventually realizes that Joe is the guy that was in the cab with Beck the day night that Beck got drunk, fell on the tracks, and he wanted to make sure she got home. And you remember Benji knocked on the window, and she got out of the car and went in with Benji. So Benji has now remembered who Joe is by face and name. He's like, you're that guy that was in the cab. So it's like, oh shit. So now he realized that the situations now has gotten extremely complicated, and he just know, like, okay, damn, what am I gonna do with this guy? So Beck and Joe, they meet. They have their meet for coffee, and so she's talking about talking about her life and whatever she's trying to do, and of course he's just enamored with her, and it's like this old hazy, dreamy kind of scene as she's talking, and he's watching her lips are moving, focusing on her lips and her face and how she smiles, and this whole little creepy thing. Joe's just creepy fuck. He's just a creepy fuck, okay? And so they started talking, and then eventually she gets a text from one of her friends. Because now they're really concerned about what's going on with Benji. Like, they haven't been able to get in contact with him, and so she has to leave, cut their date short. And he was obviously understanding, but she ends up leaving to go and deal with that. And so Joe, he's back at the bookstore, and he's talking to Ben, and he starts talking to him about, he took him something to eat. Is this when he took him something to eat? Or was it the first time they talked? But anyway, they start talking, and Benji's trying to perp like he's this whole, holistic, natural, I can only eat so many things. And for whatever reason, he told this man his weakness, which is, he had brought him a bagel, but I don't know if it was the first time they talked. And he told him that he was allergic, he had a gluten allergy, and he also had an allergy to peanuts. And so he making it seem like he's this old holistic guy, whatever the case may be. But Joe's like, okay, well, what is this? So he found drugs in his pocket, and of course Benji's like, those aren't mine. I was holding them for somebody, and and of course Joe's looking at him like, Anyway, so around this time, he knows that it's only a matter of time before Benji needs a fix, and so. But Benji's still locked in this climate-controlled room in the basement. And so you could, it's the kind that has those doors where there's a door on each side, but you can only open one door at a time. So he's opened the door, and he put some drugs in there. He was asking him a question. He asked him for the password to his phone. That's what it was. And initially, he didn't want to give it to him, but then he saw the drugs in the thing, and he was like, he had to make a decision. Are you going to go give him the pass so you can get your fix, or are you going to stay and talk? Like, he's not going to give it. Of course, he buckled, and he ends up giving him the password to the phone, and so he was able to get the drugs and get his fix. So he's taking this hit, and he's now out. So he takes his phone. Joe takes his phone and starts taking photos of him. He had some woman's lump bra or whatever, and he's taking a photo of him, and he's texting it to all his friends, because now he has access to Benji's phone. And so now it's put everybody's mind at ease. Like, okay, he's just a jerk. He's probably somewhere drunk and high, and with some bitch, some hoe somewhere. And so they're pretty like open with, okay, he's just a jerk, whatever. So you have Beck. She's meeting with her friends for drinks, and they're talking about it, and she's just like, oh, he's just a jerk, da 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 da. And they find out that Peach is having a party, and she was asking Beck if she was going to go, and of course Beck is looking confused, like she didn't know anything about the party. But eventually she was like, oh yeah, no problem. And so she eventually agrees to go to this party. So Ben and Joe, they're talking again, and Benji is basically painting Beck out to be. He's basically like, that's her game. She's not as innocent as you think. You don't know who she really is, and she's gonna probably sleep with this professor to get this grade. Da, da, da. Like, you really don't know her the way you think that you know her. And of course Joe's like, you know what? You're not gonna continue to talk to her, because in his mind, he's built Beck up to be the perfect woman. And so he's getting upset because he feels like Ben is bad-mouthing Beck. So he ends up, he said, I already know her plan. She's gonna probably have on her lipstick, this red lipstick, and she's gonna be flirting with this professor in order to get the grade, and she's gonna work him hard to get this grade. So, okay. So Joe ends up leaving, and then you flash to Beck, and she's meeting with the professor in the bar. She met with him for drinks, and she's kind of sashaying through the club, and she does have this red lipstick on, and she is kind of being flirty with him, and he's kind of getting all touchy-feely, like he touched her hand. She pulled her hand away, and he's trying to tell her how much he likes her writing, and and then he puts his hand on the table and like touches her knee, and that's when she jumps up and basically said she thinks that he's repulsive, and of course he flips the situation around, like, okay, you are you're the one walking around here, you're flirting with me, and I can see your titty, your nipples through your shirt, and basically making her out to be the person who is creating this whole situation. And so he ends up basically firing her as a TA, and so now she's like, okay, now she's fucked, because she needs that job, and he knew the position that he was in and the position that she was in, and he used it to his advantage, and now he's salty that nobody trying to fuck your old decrepit ass. And so after that situation, there are a couple of times where Joe almost got caught up. So she ends up, for whatever reason, the first person she decides to call after he leaves is Joe. But Joe was sitting in the bar, so his phone rings, so he realized, okay, he makes a mad dash out before he answers, and then she tells him that she wants to meet with him, and the whole thing. And so of course he's already down there, but of course she doesn't know that. So Beck, so Joe meets with her, they start having drinks, and he started asking her about her friend, like, okay, well, what's going on? The last time I saw you were concerned about your friend, so what's going on with that? And so she basically said, oh, he's a jerky, whatever, he's fine, da-da-da. And then they started people watching. They started kind of singling out couples and trying to guess what stage their relationship was in. Like, they was like, oh, this couple looks like they're headed for divorce. This looks like they may be on their third date. This whole thing. And it's almost like, I almost thought she was going to go for a kiss, but she ends up grabbing his drink, and she takes a sip from his drink, and she's like, oh, well, yours tastes better. So I was like, okay. So he's like, oh shit, he thought that she was about to plant one on him, right? So the next day, there's this she asked him, and then she asked him if he would be her accompany her to Peach's party. So of course he agreed. So the next day, the bookstore, it's a new Stephen King book out, there's a line out the door. Paco is already there, and so they open the door, and of course the people are flooding in. It's so busy, they're running out of bags. And so without him realizing it, Paco had taken the keys, and he was going to go downstairs to get another box of bags. So, and I was like, oh shit, is Paco going to see Benji locked in this room? And so he makes a mad dash. He gets him just before he hits the stairs, gets Paco, and then he flashes on him. And of course, Paco was kind of confused, because he's like, Joe has never been that way towards him before. But he was like, I told you never to come down here. He was like, I'm sorry, I was just trying to help. And he said, he was basically telling him to go, just to leave. So of course, Paco looks terrified, and he leaves, and he was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, he was just trying to help. He didn't know. And so, yeah, that was a moment for Paco. So we flash to Beck is over at Peach's. Peach, I keep calling her Peaches, but I think she said her name is Peach. She's figuring out what she's going to wear, and so she's giving Peach an update on what happened with the professor, and how he just basically he fired her because she wouldn't acquiesce, and eventually Peach just wrote her a check. Like, I'm just, this is her first month, last month, and a deposit. And she didn't want to take the check, but she realized she's caught between a rock and a hard place. Like, she got to find some place to live. Ben and Joe, so they're talking again. And so, Benji allegedly has this company that he's looking for investors for, some soda company, fizzy soda company, supposed to be some healthy drink. And Joe decides to test him. He gets 3 cups, and he puts something in each cup. And he said, I want you to test each of these and tell me which one is yours. And he was like, and if you get a guess right, I'll let you go. So he jumps at, he drinks from all 3 of the cups, and he was like, I can't tell. And then Joe walks away, and he was like, wait a minute, none of these are mine. He was like, he said, the guy, Ben was like, they all taste like old stale soda or something. He was like, though, they're all yours. So find out Benji is a fraud. Whatever the hell he's trying to sell or get investment for, he's just full of shit. But we already know that Benji is full of shit. So they arrive at the party, but Benji, kind of got into Joe's head a little bit, like, Beck you're not her kind of guy. He's painting Beck out to be this gold digger. She's gonna always leave a guy for a guy like me, but I can help you, And so they get to the party, and of course they're walking upstairs holding hands, but then the door opens and she lets his hand go, and kind of like she straightens his hair, like she like her demeanor changed, and he caught it. And so he's like, oh shit, like he's kind of thinking back to what Benji has said. So they get in, and Peach walks up with a drink, and she starts asking him questions about, you know, where he went to school, because they're all graduates of Brown, and so he's like, oh, I never went. And so she takes Beck away off somewhere to talk to her, and Joe's now just wandering around the house, and he finds her library. And then you find out, you see a flashback of Joe's past. So the guy who owns the bookstore, who kind of took Joe in, that motherfucker was abusive. So Joe ends up finding a book on Peaches in their library, and it took him back to when he was a kid, opening that same book. And the guy was telling him about the book, and if you have the entire set, a collector would pay a large sum for it. And so he was asking him, this was back when Joe was a teenager, asking him like had he ever read the book, and he's like, no, he never read the book. So he ends up slapping Joe, knocking him to the ground, and locking him in that climate control room. So it's like, oh shit, this man, he was okay. So you have one piece of the puzzle. Now that's still not going far enough back, because we really still don't know how he came to be in this man's care, why this man took him in, whatever. So we still haven't seen the backstory of Joe, what made him what he is, what contributed to making him what he is. But you get that's a small piece of the puzzle, like this guy was abusive to him. So Peaches finds him, and Peaches got Joe's number. I keep on saying Peach. Peach finds him in the library, and he was like, oh, you have a lovely library. And she was like, oh, you've probably read more of these books than I have. And so she's like, yeah. And so she was telling me that you guys met, and you know, it's just a coincidence that you just happened to be downtown that night, and just a coincidence that you just happened to be in the station, and you were there to help her. And so, you know, they started talking, but Peach ain't for the bullshit. Now that's one thing you can say. They might be at times full of shit, but Peach, she got hit. She looking at Joe like, motherfucker, I see you. I see you. Like, I ain't buying that shit. You just happen to be there. Okay? Okay. So they could leave the library, and he finds her, Beck. She's talking to some guy. She's kind of all laughing and all bubbly and touching his shoulder, you know, and the whole thing. And so he kind of looks like, oh, okay. It's starting to make him think back again to the conversation he had with Ben, like she basically painting Beck out to be a gold digger. So he goes upstairs. He's on the I don't know if he's on the roof or some balcony. So she, you know, eventually finds him, and he's out there, and they start talking. And she admits that, you know, she always feels like she has to keep her appearances, because she doesn't feel like she's as good as her other friends, because they all come from different backgrounds. You know, they came from they came from wealthy families, where she came from a family where she has to work for everything that she has. And so, okay, so sorry about that. My damn battery died. So yeah, they were up on their balcony talking, and they, you know, do the whole back and forth, and they decide to leave. Now, here's another situation. This is a situation where sometimes women need to sit down and shut up and let shit play out. But they're on their way out the door, and some woman walks up and she says, Joe, is that you? Joe, is that you? And so they turn around, and she was like, I'm Maddie. Remember me? I'm Maddie. I'm Candace's friend. Now, if you remember, this is the Candace that he was talking about in the beginning, how things didn't work out. And he was like, yeah, he said, it's strange that, you know, we haven't heard from her. And he said, yeah, she met some guy and went off to Rome to live her bliss or something. He was like, yeah, but she, you know, it's funny how she just she just left like that without communicating to anyone. And so instead of Beck just shutting the fuck up and letting the shit play out, no, she intervened. She's like, oh, well, you know what, you have to excuse us, you know, we have a cab waiting, and da. So she ends up pulling him out. She gets him out of the situation that she really should just, like I said, let it play out. Because we need to find out what the fuck happened to Candace, okay? So so they leave left the party, and he heads home. She drops her off, and he heads home. And so Paco was on the stairs again. He's reading the book, and Joe walks up, starts talking to him, and he apologizes to him. He's like, you know what, I'm used to the yelling. And he's like, no, it's not okay. I am sorry. And so you really find out that the book that he was looking at in Peach's house, he actually stole. So he gives the book to Paco, and he's like, I can't take that in the house. You already know what's gonna happen to it. The mother's boyfriend already destroyed one book. And so he starts telling Paco, if you go into the bathroom, all of our apartments are laid out similarly. If you go into the bathroom, there's a panel that you can shift, and you can put it up there and shift it back and hide it, so he won't be able to find it. And Paco was like, oh, a secret hiding place. He was like, yeah. So they made up. He ended up giving him dinner, and that was that. And so the following morning, Joe, he starts talking. He's still second guessing like why Beck took him to the party, because Ben's still in his head about how she's a gold digger and how she would always leave him for a guy like him, for a guy like Benji, guy with money, he's putting her out to be this kind of person. And so he realized Benji, like, oh shit, I have to go back to so he jumps up and runs to the bookstore, because at this point he realized he's probably tweaking, he hasn't had his fix, So he gets there and Benji is bouncing off the walls. Whatever books are in there, he done ripped up. He's like he's just going crazy. And he's like, you left me here to die. And so he's kind of like he's standing there like with his eyes kind of bugged out, because Benji was in a state. Beck goes to talk to her professor, and basically she went to ask him to give her TA job back, or if he didn't want to do that, if he could transfer her to another professor. And he was like, well, it's the middle of the term, and basically he's not gonna do shit. Like, she didn't give him what he wants, so he don't give a fuck. Like, she could be homeless and live on the street and eat out the garbage. He just doesn't give a damn. And so she basically whips out her phone and she says, I found 7 other women who have their story to tell about being harassed by you. And basically, if you don't give me my job back or move me to somebody else, they were all going to come forward. And he was like, oh, but you don't know what you're talking about, basically trying to call her bluff. She basically told him, okay, you can try to call my bluff if you want to risk it. Like, let's do this. Like, with the ball's in your court, what the fuck are you gonna do? And so they kind of was like looking at each other, like, you realize it's a standoff. Like, okay, so what's gonna happen? So Benji and Joe, they're back talking. They're talking again, and Benji's like, you know what? Maybe he can make a deal with him. He said, I know your worst secret, so maybe if you know something about me that could also, basically, in my career, in my life as I know it, you'll feel more comfortable letting me out, knowing that I won't say anything. So he tells him about this thumb drive that's in his apartment, and he tells him to go look at it. And so what he realizes is that, because Benji was like, you've done bad things, but I feel like I've done worse. So Joe goes to get the thumb drive, and he realized that during some stupid frat party, one of the frat boys died. They was holding him underwater. They was just doing all kind of shit, and the boy ended up dying. And for whatever reason, Benji was recording it, and they still all hoop partying until they realized that he wasn't waking up. And so Benji had kept a copy of the recording, I guess, as blackmail for his friends or whatever. I don't know, just in case he had something over them, whatever the case may be. And so Beck ends up so the next day Beck ends up going to the bookstore to thank him, because after their conversation, their conversation gave her the boost in confidence that she needed to confront her professor. And basically you find out that he backed down and he gave her job back. And so she brought him this donut, and they start talking, and then they finally kiss. Because on the balcony, it was like she was going in for a kiss, but then she kind of laid her head on his shoulders, and he's like, oh shit, are you kidding me? So he finally kissed, and like his dreams in this world, everything is right with the world again. So now he has to deal with Joe. Joe has to deal with Ben. So he goes downstairs and he gives Ben a cup of latte or something. He was like, oh, it's too stevia, like it was made exactly the way he likes it. And so he was telling him that, okay, so you saw the footage, and he was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, yeah. So he felt like he's about to get out now. And so they're talking, and he was like, you know what? I don't think that everything that you were telling me about Beck is true. And Beck, and now this whole time, Ben's been telling him, I don't give a shit about. The one true thing that I think that Ben just said is that he don't give a shit about Beck. Because, you can tell just by the way he perceives her. And so Joe was basically like, you have a perception of her, and you've been projecting that onto her as being a gold digger, and you've dealt with her in that vein based on how you perceive her. I don't think that how you perceive her is the right way. So Benji's drinking the coffee. He was like, and you're dangerous to her. Not, if it was just me, I would take the chance, but I feel like you're dangerous to her, and I just can't let that happen. And so then, he starts coughing and gagging and and then he find out that he had put peanut oil in the coffee. And remember, if you think back, Ben had told him he was allergic to peanut oil. So our first casualty, as we know it. See, we still don't know what the hell happened to Candace. So as far as we know, Ben has been the first casualty in his war to get Beck to himself. So he's dead on the floor. You see him now. He's at home in his bathroom at that little hiding space, and I'm assuming that was Benjamin's cell phone that he put up in the ceiling to hide it. And so now he has crossed over into being a murderer. Again, as far as we know, this is his first murder. Again, we got to wait to find out what happened to Candace. Did Candace go off to Rome to find her bliss, or did she go off to Rome to get the hell away from him? We don't know. Or is Candace still walking around? We don't know. So that's basically how the episode ended. A very good show. Like I said, Joe is creepy as fuck. And like I said, this show really does give you an insight on how these people think. It's really twisted and sick. But I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.